You want to buy a home solar system. So now the question is, do you lease the system or do you buy the system outright? That's what we're going to discuss in today's video, some of the pros and cons both ways. Now, with all that said, if you have not, please hit that subscribe button down below and hit that thumbs up as well. That will help the video. Also, once you watch the video, please leave a comment with your thoughts and please feel free to share this video out with anyone you think it may help. With all that said, now let's get into how to harness the power of the sun. Okay, so now we will get into the pros and cons of lease versus buy. And we'll start off with the pro side of lease, and then I'll explain why that's a con on the buy side. And I do have a phone here that I'm looking at notes just so I make sure I get all this information correct. But the first thing is on a lease is little to no cost. So if you lease a system, you don't own it, they come and set it up, they have to maintain it. So there's very little cost to setting it up. Actually, if you were on a deal where they said there was cost, I would not do it. And with that, of course, comes some more advantages and disadvantages. But the cost factor is a big one, because if you buy outright, sometimes you're looking at, $20,000 to $30,000 depending on the system. And there are some rebates involved in that, and we'll get deeper into that as well. But that is definitely the major pro to going with a lease, is you do not have to pay all that money up front. So that gets into the first con of a buy. So if you do buy your system, obviously you're paying for that whole system up front. Again, that's going to be, $20,000 to $30,000 minus some rebates, but you are going to have some very big initial upfront costs depending on the size of the system and what you want to do with it. All that factors into it. But that would be a good first pro for lease and a good con for buy. So now, number 2 on my list is I have maintenance of the equipment. So again, with the lease, this is a huge pro because you do not have to maintain anything. The leasee is responsible for any of the equipment damage, replacing anything gone bad. They are fully responsible for that. And that is also, again, why that is a con on the buy side. You own that whole system, so you are fully responsible for the complete system. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're looking to get into it at a low cost and you're looking to get into it without really having to maintain the system or know much about it, a lease may be right for you. But if you're looking, if you do have the money up front, then potentially a buy will be right for you. But you're also going to have to factor in maintenance. And while maintenance on a solar panel isn't huge, and these things can take a beating. We actually had one on our RV for over 2 years, and it went through a lot of bad weather, and they held up great. So, I don't know about all the other stuff as well. I mean, it held up pretty good for us, so that could change, system to system. But overall, I don't think there's a lot of maintenance there anyway. But that is something to keep in mind is, one side you have no maintenance, the other side you're fully responsible for all of the maintenance. And the third point of a pro for a lease is it does not impact your homeowner's insurance. Because you don't own any of the equipment, it's not adding value to your house, so therefore you do not have to up your homeowner's insurance in order to cover the extra value that you have invested into your solar system. On the other side of that, the con for buying your system is you do have to typically increase your homeowner's insurance because you've got this huge system now on your home. So you want to make sure that you got it covered in case of a fire, whatever kind of damage. That way you're good to go. So there will be an increase on your homeowner's insurance if you go the buy option, but it's also increasing the value of your house, which we'll get more into that down the road. So, all these pros and cons come with offsets each way. But with that said, one does impact your homeowners, one does not. So, if you're looking to get into this system for a very low cost, have no maintenance, and have no impact on your homeowner's insurance or anything else involving your home, then a lease is probably the best option for you. Now, with all that said, we're now going to jump over and look at some of the pros to buying and the cons to leasing. So, number 1 pro is if you buy, you own the equipment, you're in full control of what goes on with it. You can switch it out if newer technology comes out, if you're willing to pay for it, or if you can get some sort of trade-in for your older equipment, where in a lease, you're typically locked in for 20 to 25 years. And pretty much what equipment you got there is probably what's going to be there. So when newer technologies come out, you could get left behind. So another advantage is the tax credit that comes with buying your system. So once you have your system put in, you've bought it, you can get a huge tax break for doing this. Currently, this is running at 30% all the way through 2033. I want to make sure 2032. In 2033, this brake drops down to 22%, and then in 2034 it goes to 22%, and at that point it will be totally gone. So there is a huge tax incentive to go ahead and get your system installed if you're buying it. If you're leasing it, your leasee gets that, so that's something else to keep in mind. But with that, something to keep in mind also is, say you only pay in $2,000. The most you're going to get back is $2,000 regardless of how much your system is. You cannot make more back off of this. So it's not like an earned income kind of thing. You can't get back more than you paid in based on this. It's just a tax credit deduction. So that is something to keep in mind. So if you already are below that, you're probably not going to get good advantage with this tax incentive. On the other side of that, for a lease system, a huge disadvantage is you're not going to get this tax credit. Just like I said, the leaser gets the tax credit. So they get to show that they installed a system. Now they get the full credit, your tax credit for it. So that is something else to keep in mind. So this does help to offset the system that you are installing if you buy. But if you're not buying it, then obviously you're not going to be able to take credit for that. So that is a huge advantage on the buy side and a huge disadvantage on the lease side, because for me, I like getting all the tax credits that I can get and all the tax breaks that I can get. So the next one is the return on investment, or your ROI that you get for buying a system versus leasing a system. If you buy a system, you're getting 100% of the return of ROI. So anything that you profit from a lower power bill to no power bill, or anything that you profit by putting money back into the grid, which the power company then has to pay you for, that is all money back to you. It is a lot quicker, a lot easier to make all your money back on this system with that kind of setup. Versus if you get into a lease, then you're still paying a power bill. So typically it's a set power bill per year that can change as energy cost goes up over time. So they can also fluctuate. That's something else to keep in mind. So your bill may be set to $100 a month for the first 2 years, and then it can go to $125 for that third year. So that is something else to keep in mind. And typically with a lease, the longer you have the system, the less return of ROI that you're going to get, because that electric bill is going to be going up. So I'm not a fan of that. So if you do a lease, I would say try to get one that locks in that rate the whole time, if you can find that, if it's possible, because the fluctuating rate is going to make it hard to keep up with that ROI. But on that is a huge advantage, that you're getting the full 100% return on investment, versus you're probably getting about 30 to 40% of the return on investment when you go the route of leasing. So a next one, which is a huge one, a bought solar system will increase the value of your home. So that is a for sure fact. And I don't know if y'all can see, but my cat's coming up here. But a bought solar system will increase the value of your home. There is pretty much a good return on investment for that as well. And if you lease, because you do not own the system, you're not going to get any value on your home. And actually, because then there is basically a lien against your house with this lease system, you have to try to get the new buyer to take over this lease, or you got to break the lease, which I'm sure is going to cost money if you break any kind of a lease. So with that, it can actually make your home harder to sell if you are in a leased option. So I would say, if you think you might sell your house in the next 3 to 5 years, definitely do not lease. If you know you're going to stay there, then the lease may be a better option for you as well. But, again, it does make it a whole lot harder to sell, because you have to acknowledge this when you go to sell. So if you've got this thing leased, then it's going to tie up your home, where if you've bought it, then you can add that back into the value of your home and even get more of a return of the investment that you put into it based on that. Now, the last one that I think is a huge pro for the buy side is you have no monthly payment when you buy your own system. So no matter what you do, you have no monthly payment. Everything that you get back, again, the ROI is all on you. Where if you lease it, then you're always still going to have a steady bill. Like I say, that bill can fluctuate over time. It can start low, probably end high, but you're always going to have a steady bill. So to me, that's just not as much of a value. That you're still going to have a power bill. You're never going to completely get out of it. You're just going to be paying the leaser instead of paying the power company. And then they're going to get all the kickbacks from the power company for having that solar system, for putting power back into the grid. And again, they're going to get your tax credit. So with all that said, you know, that's a pretty bad con for the lease and a pretty good pro for the buy. And obviously, as you can see, hopefully on the camera right now, it's raining here a little bit. So that's why you never want to depend fully on solar for your home. You always want to have multiple backup solutions for days like this, because we haven't had any sun. So obviously you're not going to get a whole lot of solar out of a day like this. But just something else to keep in mind, the weather's dictating part of this video right now. Now you have all the information that I have researched to this point. Again, I'm still doing more research. Please leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on what you think about this. And if you have either been in either situation where you've already installed your own solar system that you bought or leased, let me know your thoughts on that as well. And you know, has it been a positive experience or a negative experience, and why? And plus, that'll help other people who are reading the comments gather some more information. I personally am still trying to decide at this point. I will say I'm probably leaning towards the buy option. I just think that the pros on that side for my situation outweigh the cons, but I can definitely see people going either or depending on their situation. But for me, currently I'm leaning towards buy, unless I can find some more information that would sway me the other way. But I will say it's a very close decision on either side. You know, if somebody came to me and said, hey, we'll give you a full install, we'll set your power at $100 a month going forward for the next 25 years, I'd probably consider that very, very heavily. But based on I don't think that deal's out there, I'm really looking at the buy so I can get that full return on the ROI. But once I make that final decision, I will be sure to do an update video and share it out. And probably I will share out the install of this as well as the people start to work on it. But I want to thank you all so much for your time for watching this video today. And I look forward to hearing back from you down in the comments. Thanks, y'all. Bye.